like participating in the app competition? Yes, so with GDC India will not be announcing the problem statements, but they do have some suggestions for us. So we'll be announcing the problem statement shortly, and it will be sent in your mails. And without further ado, we'll be starting off with today's session shortly. Before that, I would like to thank our sponsor, Lift India, for sponsoring this event. Lift India is also our gold partner. Can we have a show of hands? How many of you have completed the Unit 1 and Unit 2 or are on the verge of completing? So I can see a lot of people have completed. Some are on the way to finish the Unit 2. So I think we are ready to start with today's session. And if you have any doubts or you want to clarify any of your doubts, you can just write it in a chat section and we'll clarify that right now. So are you excited to make your very first app and participate in an app competition with your peers? Shayok is finding the last module difficult. If you have face any problem, Shayok, you can reach out to our facilitators and the ones who are teaching. They're available everywhere. They're in the WhatsApp groups as well. So now I will hand it over to Shomalo to make you guys understand the basic agenda of today's session. Shomalo, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Shantani. I'll be taking it over time. Hi, guys. So, how are you doing? Is Swarup there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you start?
No, Shubhai will start actually. I will be coming on after.
Okay. Okay then, guys. So today we will be learning some the last bit. I promise the last bit of Kotlin fundamentals. I know you are getting bored on that part, and we will be learning the very main part, like the how to build a scrollable list. Because if you see like the Facebook, Instagram, everything, you guys see scrolling. So scrolling is a very important part in a app UI. So we will learn how to make a scrollable list, and after that there is the first surprise module that we have kept. That is how to make great UI designs. This will be taught by Swarup Ranjan Paul. As you see, the day 1 and day 2 PPTs were really great. It was made by Swarup only. So he will be teaching the UI part, and he is one of the best in business. So let me hand it over to Shubhayu, and he will teach the basic 101 crash course of Kotlin fundamentals. Shubhayu, are you there?
Yeah, am I visible and audible?
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
go on.
Is my screen visible here?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
So, hey everyone, welcome to today's day 3 of Compose Camp. Today we'll be talking about the last bit of Kotlin fundamentals, and this is the section of Kotlin fundamentals that is actually used in developing large-scale applications, making it robust and making it stick out in the in between different apps. Like this is going to make your app stand out in terms of performance, in terms of user experience, and other parameters. So let's learn the Kotlin fundamentals. We'll start with more Kotlin fundamentals like generics, objects, and extensions. See, Kotlin is a very user-friendly uh, programming language, and it has several devices that's built inside it just to help us developers build a very robust code, make it very worthwhile while we code. Like, it's one time we code and then it works forever. Like, we don't have to look back at it, fix bugs and all. So a few of the things that we're going to discuss is generics, different kinds of classes, mostly enum classes and data classes, singleton and companion objects, extension properties and functions and scope functions. So let's start with reusable class with generics. So you have tried building applications, you have tried building classes rather, using different data types, different variables and stuff. But sometimes you come up to a situation where not a single class can afford to have any single data type. I mean, it needs different data types to support different use cases, but at the end of the day, it's built for the same cause. Let's take as an example. For example, you are trying to build a quiz question in which you have three parameters. One is the question text, one is the answer, third is the difficulty. The difficulty could be easy, hard, and medium. The answer could vary between, that could be a text answer, that could be a Boolean answer, true or false, that could be an integer answer, that could be a float answer, that could be any other data type as example. That could be some other class objects also, the answer. And the question text, we are assuming they all are strings. Now, for example, as you can see, is my mouse pointer visible to anybody if I move it?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So the question text here is string, but the answer is string too. Here the question text is string, the answer is boolean, and the question text is string, and the answer is int. So to write a class of the same question text and the same difficulty, we have to write three different classes because we have three different use cases of answer parameter itself, and it's tedious to write these sort of codes because now you might have different kinds of questions for your quiz app, and then quiz app or like some testing app, online proctoring app, and it's going to be very tedious. I mean, it's going to be so messed up. That's where generic classes comes in. Now, generic classes helps you to write a single class that can afford to push in all the different classes of different data types. So generic types, or generics for short, is used for this specific reason. The syntax is, we write class, the class name, and between angular brackets we pass in a variable. In general, we write capital T, but you can take any other variable as you might, and we set val, property name, and the data type of it. Now, the way we used yeah, the way we used answer the variable name and then the data type as string. Here, answer the variable name and boolean is the data type. That the same way we pass in the variable as the data type. I'm going to show you as an example with an example, that one. And to make an object of that class, to pass the parameter, the variable of the data type, we write the generic data type, we replace this with the data type that we wish to make the class object of. So for example, we have a class question, which is a generic class. It holds a question text of string, an answer of variable t, of data type t, which we are passing in here, with the difficulty of string data type. And when we create the object, we pass the value of t as string while creating the object. So this makes sure that we can pass in multiple uh, different data types. And so, for example, I can run this and show you as an example. I have this same code that is here in this PPT, and as you can see, we are passing p. Now, for example, if I had to change the question text, if the question text would vary, like not string but also some numbers, maybe it could be an integer, I would have done this way. I could have passed w and made it w, and it's going to work the same. But with that, I'll have to say string and int. And if I comment them, it's going to work fine. Right. I cannot pass this here like this. Plus 10. This should work fine. Yeah, this works fine. This is just a warning that question 1 is never used. It's fine. The code runs perfectly. Now, if I want to print this, it's printing me a hash of it. Which I don't know. It's not going to work. No, and I mean the question works, and you know it since it works here. If you decide that multiple parameters of your class has to have variable data types, then this is the way how you can pass. I'm going to show you. And if we run this, it works the same. So let's get back to the presentation. So the next up we have enum class. Enum class comes in that scenario where we feel that there are specific use cases. Like for example, for deciding on cardinal directions, there are only 4 possible options: north, south, east, and west. And this could be represented by an enum class because we know there is no other possible combination of them or no other possible output of that. You cannot put north, south, east, west, sun, moon, etc. inside cardinal directions. But if it comes, then that's a bug in your code. It's not supposed to work that way. This is why we use enum classes. The syntax is we write enum and then class and then the enum class name and then the cases. In general, we write the cases with all caps. And while accessing the parameters of that enum class, we write the enum class name and then the case name, which is also in all caps, using the dot operator. Now, for example, here we can use it with the difficulty that the difficulty in our questions are easy, medium, and hard. And we can set the difficulty here as the enum class itself, as an object of the enum class. So it's not string anymore, it's the object of the enum class. And while passing, we can pass it as difficulty dot medium, difficulty dot hard, and difficulty dot easy. So it's easier for us to not change things across different code bases. But since we know that enum class is holding all the possible difficulty combinations, we can just refer to that and pass it. So it's going to make sure that our code never breaks in different scenarios. Now here we have the same code. I can run this for you, which obviously runs. We'll try to
Shubhayu, sorry to interrupt. Can you go with slow? I think many of them are facing
yeah,
problem to
it's
catch
fine.
up.
I'll get back to the
Yeah, yeah.
sure 1 second. I'm sorry I skipped the questions. Can you please explain the use of enum class 1 second? Sure. Debanjan. See, the use case of enum class is when we have different specific combinations of outputs that we know. For example, if you are building a quiz app, there can be only 3 possible combinations of questions difficulty. It could be easy, it could be hard, it could be medium. And you do not want any other string inside it. Since we were passing the difficulty as string, maybe due to some bug, your string might get populated with garbage value, and you don't want that. That is the reason we can use an enum class which only holds specific combinations possible. The question can only be easy or medium or hard. That's it. So to make sure nothing else tampers with that, we use the enum class. And also it makes your coding easy because now you know that the difficulty combination is already stored inside that enum class of difficulty. Like, yeah, like your difficulty combinations are already stored inside this enum class of difficulty. So whenever you have to refer about your question's difficulty anywhere inside your app, anywhere inside your code base, you can always refer back to this difficulty class and then use the combination of it, like which could be medium, which could be easy, or which could be hard. Does that answer your question, Dibanju? So let's move to the next. Now we have data classes. Now, when you came across writing classes, you came across writing functions of classes and do operations with the data, but not all classes actually have any other functionality than rather than holding data. For example, in this scenario, in this scenario, this class question, this has no other functionality except for holding the data, which is three data here: question text, the answer, and the difficulty. So what we can do is that we know that this class functionality is just to maintain the data, and anytime we use a question to put in our app, we're going to refer back to this class, and this class doesn't have any more functionality except for the stuff to hold data. So we can define this class as a data class. Now what happens when we define a class as a data class is, when a class is defined as a data class, these methods are implemented by Kotlin itself. You do not have to write the functions for the classes yourself, but Kotlin by default attaches all these functions with your class, with your custom class. That is equals. Equals is used to equate between two possible strings. That could be a question text, your answer to some other string. All you have to do is to refer to your question, which is question one dot answer dot equals, and then pass in the string that you want to compare with. Hash code returns the hash value of whatever question you have, the variable. ToString does the toString job. It converts the question to a string, and it's easier for you to read. You remember when I tried to run the println question for question one, it gave me a hash value of that question. See, it gives me a hash value. It's not rendering the question as it's supposed to a string. It cannot handle that because this is a class object. This is not a string. But if I define the question class as a data class, dot toString function is going to help me convert this entire class, entire object to a string. Component used in the same scenario, and copy function is also used. Copy function is also implemented to copy objects and the data of it very easily. Uh, Here I have implemented this as data. Right. So if I try making this a data class and then try to print this again, it's again going to give me the hash of the object. No, it doesn't. See, now it has directly converted the question one into a string of the question. See, it's still an object of question class. You can see that. And also it returns the data of that object as a string now. It's not returning me as an object or the hash of that object. So the question text says, welcome to dash, answer is compose camp, difficulty is medium, and all the parameters that you might have in the data class. So that's one way you can ease out your writing of classes. Next up, we have a singleton object. If you guys have any more questions, no questions. You guys can drop your questions if you have any in the chat, and I'll refer to it. Next up, we have singleton object. Now, to understand why we have singleton object, you need to understand that there are several scenarios where you want to have object of a class only once. Now imagine you are using a hardware of your Android device. That could be your camera, that could be your speaker, that could be your earphone output, that could be your on-screen some controls. And while using that in your application, you have to make sure that only one object of that class is being used at a time. Because if you try to play two songs together through the same speaker, it's not going to work, right? That is the reason we need to make sure that if an object is working, is in the cache memory, is in the RAM currently working, it has to be only one instance of it, and no other instance is running parallel. That is why we use singleton object. Singleton object makes sure that only one instance is running, and the syntax is right. We write object, we don't write class. The keyword is object here, and then the object name. Inside that, we write the class body. It works the same as a class, but we write object instead of class. For example, we write an object, student progress, and inside that, we put in the data of variable total as 10 and answered is three questions, because we have three questions as of now. And why solving a quiz question in a real world scenario, you would want to hold in the data of the students just while they play the quiz and not retain the data after they have done. I mean, you could possibly dump the data of the final result, maybe their final total score, what they had to have a leaderboard of some kind. That's going to work. But when you're having multiple instances of quiz, you don't want to have multiple objects of some student data, because it's going to clash and it's going to make things worse. And to access a singleton object, it's the same. Using the dot operator, we write the object name dot the property name. Okay, and questions, fine. Show the use case, right? Before talk about the companion object, I just want to show you that what I did is that previously we had all the questions inside the main function. That's just to test if the function is working. Now I made a class of called quiz, in which I made three questions here inside the class, and then I have an object with that. This is a singleton object. This is not a regular class. This is going to run only when the class quiz is working, and this is going to run together with the class quiz. And this is the running together, like bringing it inside the quiz class, is done by the companion keyword. Now, what does the companion keyword do? See, the companion keyword object allows you to access its properties and methods from inside the class. It reads the student progress as a parameter, I mean, as a data of the class quiz itself, and not something else. So it allows you to write more concise syntax and more shorter code. Because then, if you want to access the total value, then all you have to do is to write quiz.studentprogress.total, and that's going to give you the total value. And you do not have to maintain another parallel class of maybe student progress to keep working there. Extend classes with new properties and methods. We'll get back to this. Before, let's refer to here. So as you can see, we have this quiz. Now, for example, if I want to make an object of maybe a variable, we have quiz, and then you can try to print output. This is going to work. See, it returns me 10. So this is how we access the value from a companion object. Next up, we have extend class with new properties and methods. Before that, let's check. Right, extend classes with new properties and methods, and this is where we can write our own properties for using in a class. Maybe we want to work with dot update function. Maybe we want to write a function, or maybe we want to write a print statement custom for our class, so that it always returns a specific formatted print, so that it helps us know the current state of the quiz, or maybe update the current state of the quiz. So Kotlin gives us that opportunity to add a value like this here. We are going to run this. I'm going to show you what exactly it does. The syntax is val type name of whatever the type you have. For in this case, it's quiz.studentProgress dot property name, which is progress text, which is a custom text that you might want to have, and the data type colon the data type, which is string. We use a property getter function, which is get equals, and then we pass in the string whichever we want to. Since quiz.studentProgress already holds the data type data total and answered, it can be accessed directly here. So we can pass it into the string using the dollar and curly braces, and this is going to work. Before going to extension function, let's answer this. Let's try to see this work. Yeah. So if you try to print the quiz progress text, You can see it says 3 out of 10 answered. Now we can make it 15 and run. Tells me 3 out of 15 answered. Now what? How does this help? Since you have this custom made of progress text, now anytime while working in your app, you can access this custom text from your main function or some other function because it's a part of the quiz class, and this is going to dump you the same formatted string that you always want to have printed. This makes your job very easy. It's just a one-time string, and then you can keep accessing it forever. Same way, we can add an extension function. Instead of a value, it's a function where you can do a lot more than just assign a value to a variable. It is wrote in the same format. The type name, which is, for example, we have quiz dot student progress, and then the function name, whichever we want to have. The function parameters here, the return type if we have something, and then the function body. For example, we can have quiz dot student progress dot print progress bar. We want to have a progress bar. And repeat is a custom. Repeat is a more formatted for loop, basically, which is going to iterate over quiz dot answered and print a bar for, and the rest is going to be printed with an empty bar here, and then with a new line we're going to print the quiz dot progress text that we defined earlier. So this is supposed to be the answer. Let's try to run this. Any more questions? This is the function that we have. If you guys need the functions, please let me know in the chat. Josh is already giving that. Fine. Let's try to run the function here. See, it, it does the progress bar and also dumps the string that you have custom made here. 3 out of 10 answer. And you can keep referring to these functions, these custom functions that you have wrote for yourself anywhere inside your code. It's a one-time thing, and it makes your life so much easier. Then next up, we can replace long object names using let function. I mean, this is just to write shorter code and easier code. For example, if you had to write, I mean, details of all the questions, you could write a function called print quiz, and then print all the data, as in like question one dot question text, and then question one dot answer, question one dot difficulty, then question two dot question text, question two dot answer, question two dot difficulty. But instead, we can use the let function. It's basically a it lets you refer to an object of a lambda expression using the it operator itself. I mean, whenever you write an object dot let, it refers this specific object to the it inside it. So that let's try it here. See, we wrote this print quiz function inside the quiz class, and now when we try to run the main function here, try to call the print quiz, it's going to dump me all the questions using the it operator. Yeah, so this is the custom output, the print progress bar here, and then the questions here. Welcome to Dash. Answer is compose camp. Difficulty is medium. Then the next question, these three, and then the next question, these three. Call an objects method without variable using only apply function. So when we try to write different functions together of a particular class, do some operations one after the other, we in generally run them as quiz dot something, the class object name dot the function dot, and this goes on one after the other. But instead, what we can do is that we can use the apply function, which is going to let us do all the operations in a stack. I mean, it's going to run one after the other, but we can write it in a single line. Let's try to use the apply function here. We have that. Right. So it's basically quiz.apply and then print it. So let's try to write now. I would suggest you guys try running this. I'm going to give you the code here in your chat. You guys need it. Too much for them to handle. I might have hit the word limit here. So I want you guys to try it out yourself. I'll split the code with two functions at a time. The class here, quiz class. I want you guys to run this. This is the class quiz, and this is rest of the code. I want you guys to run this apply function, quiz.apply, just this bit, quiz.apply, and then the print quiz function. And tell yes once you are done with that. Also, you can refer to this gist, and you can access the code from here directly. Till then, if you have any more doubts, any more questions, you can drop them in the chat, and I can answer them. Tell me if you're doing it, guys. कोई कर रहा है तो बता दो. Either way, let's try to do it ourselves. Let's start apply and then print it. So, like I forgot about the parentheses. Yeah, see, it prints the question. It does the print quiz function and prints all the questions here. Okay, fine. We have done. We're done with it. Cool. So as of now, like if I refer to this code again, let's see what we have. We have a class. We have a data class for questions, which is going to hold the question text, the answer, and the difficulty. And the difficulty is also of an enumerator class of different difficulty levels. We have a class quiz, which is going to help you define questions for your quiz. It also has a companion object that holds the current status of your student inside an object. It's not going to repeat itself. You know that. We also have a print quiz function using the let operator. It's going to reduce the code redundancy. You also have a custom progress text. You also have a custom function, print progress bar. And you know how to use the apply function to stack all the functionality together and then run it. If you guys have any more question, you guys can drop it in the chat. Till then, let's move to the next stuff. Next up, we have collections in Kotlin. So collections are the generic data types that we have in all languages in C, C++, Python, Java, Kotlin also, and in any programming languages in general. This is very basic to all of you. I believe you guys will refer to this easily. First up, we have arrays in Kotlin. Arrays are like any other arrays in any other programming languages, we have a variable. We declare arrays with the keyword array of. We pass in the data type of that array as in between angular brackets, and then the values of it. This is how we do that. Or else you can have you do not need to pass in the data type of it, and it's going to figure it out itself. Kotlin is smart. Next up, we have lists. Now, list is an ordered resizable collection, and this is the difference between lists and array. Array is not resizable. However you use array for, array is always of a fixed size, but lists are not of a fixed size. It's resizable collection, and you can add any number of data like of the array inside the list, and you can keep adding data using the dot add function. And list of is the keyword you use to declare a list. Next up, we have list and mutable list. Now, inside list, since list is the same as of an array, list is an interface that defines properties and methods related to read an only ordered collection of items. List gives you the opportunity to only read only. It's not going to let you write inside the list, but mutable list gives you the opportunity to write inside the list if you want to modify anything, add anything, delete anything. So in this scenario, if you had used the list here, it wouldn't let you add, delete, or update any of the stuff that you have in it, any of the data you have in it. But mutable list gives you the opportunity to have the dot add operator and add any data. And you could add data in a particular index too, like index 3, and pass in a string, which is your data. Next up, we have sets in Kotlin. So sets are the data type that makes sure that whatever data you have, it has only one copy of the data inside it. It doesn't let you repeat the data. It doesn't allow duplicate values, as you can see. And like list and mutable list, both set and mutable sets are implemented accordingly. Sets do not let you read. I mean, it sets only allows you to read, but not write, update, or delete. But mutable set gives you the opportunity to do that. So in order to do that, you can use mutable set and then have dot add function, and also check if the data is present inside the set using the dot contains function. This dot contains is going to return you true, and this dot size is going to return you 8. Next up, we have a map collection in Kotlin, and the same way, map of function and mutable map of function. See, all the functions, all the data types, all the collections, and the mutable collections have the same strategy, that all the collections itself, they only give you the read opportunity, read access, but mutable collection gives you the access of read, write, update, and delete. So for a map, since it's a key value pair, you can add a key value here, like the key is Mercury, value is 0, and we mark it with the two keyword, Venus to 0, Earth to 1. This is a map of planet to moons, and if you want to dump the size of your map, it's going to return you 8. And if you want to check if the thea keyword is present or not, it's going to return you null because it's not present there. Before we move to higher order functions, if you guys have any questions. You guys don't have any questions. Damn. Am I teaching you very good, or like you guys already know all of this? I've never had an audience like you guys, man. You guys are way too good. Okay, let's move on to higher order functions with collections then. Okay, higher order functions are especially relevant to collections as they help you to perform common tasks like sorting or filtering with less code. The same, the data types, but we can use custom functions that can help us write less amount of code to do more work. First up, we have for each. It is more like a for loop function. which lets us iterate over all the elements inside a list or a set or a map or any other collection as such using the dot it operator. I mean, using the it operator, we can try it in our code base, I believe. I have code. So, for example, if you check this code here, variable best DJs is a list of Martin Garrix, Chainsmokers, Marshmallow, Avicii, Nuclear. See, hands down, I believe they are the best DJs. No questions on that. But if you want to debate, we can meet on 20th for sure. And the best DJs for each function gives you the opportunity for to loop over all the data. It's going to return this string: DJ Martin Garrix, DJ the Chainsmokers, DJ the Marshmallow, DJ Avicii, DJ Nuclear, in the very same way. It is also the same as the repeat function as you had seen previously. Next up, we have the map function. Map function lets you transform a collection into a new collection with the same number of elements. Now, for example, if you want to convert all the data that you have in a collection, like maybe a list, maybe an array, to some other format, maybe you have some values of some, maybe the scores of with different students, but in string. Somehow you have the value in string, but you don't want to operate with the values in string. You want to convert all the data of that list into integer. So then you can do all your operations on that. A map gives you that opportunity to convert all the data into, do an operation on top of it, and then finally get an output of it. It's the same operation on all of them. For example, if I do a map function on best DJs and say, and add a string at the end of it, which is dash heart, because I love all of them, and then have for each function to print all of that. You see, Martin Garrix has a dash heart. Like all the strings have dash heart at the end. You could possibly write any function inside here instead of the double quotes and this operation. Take the data, whichever is passing through, using the it operator, it, and then do the operations that you wish to do and put it inside another variable. Next up, we have the filter operation. Filter function lets you create a subset of a collection. It's basically filtering. It's basically filtering whatever you have, whatever you want to filter out of the main collection. So here I wanted to filter out as if the length is less than 6, then only I want to have that, or else I don't. So here we have only one DJ whose name is less than 6 characters long, which is DJ, which is Avicii. So now we have that. The rest is going to be filtered out. It's more like sorting between both. Next up, we have group by. Group by creates two different lists. One that satisfies the logic, one that doesn't. One is true, one is false. So in this scenario, I wanted to group by the data I have with length if it's greater than 8 or not. And for true, it's Martin Garrix, the Chainsmokers, the Marshmallow as output. And for false, it's Avicii and Nuclear. So it dumps two different scenarios. One is true and then one is false, two different lists. So you can separate the data for on a particular logic, which is true and false. Next up, we have fold function. Fold function is used to generate a single value from a collection. Like maybe you want to create the best, I mean, the high score out of all your quiz attempts. You can use the fold function. You might want to create an average score of your quiz attempts. You want to use the fold function. What fold function does is that it takes in all the data, does an operation, and then dumps a single value out of that. Now, the declaration is a bit different here. We use the dot fold function, and inside the parentheses, the first bracket, we pass in the standard value of whatever data type we want as an output. For example, here in this scenario, I want a string as an output. So I'm going to pass in an empty string. If I want to have int as an output, I'm going to pass in 0. If I want to have float as an output, I'm going to pass 0.0. The names here is the temp variable, temporary variable that we run inside a loop in order to do our operations. Now, I believe you guys have written functions to write average out of a list of an array. What we do is that we maintain a temporary variable, we add it and then divide it with the length of the array, right? But we need to maintain the temporary variable. Now, names here is the temporary variable that you are referring to, and it is the iterator that iterates over all the data that you have in your collection. Here, name is added with the space plus the iterator. So each time the name is going to get updated with the space and the it operator. I mean, the data that you have in the collection of that iteration. So the output is Martin Garrix space, the chain smoker space, marshmallow, blah blah blah. Last, we have sorted by. Now, this gives you a list which lets you sort on a very custom level. Like, it doesn't need any specific declaration as such to sort the data you have in your collection. Now, what I did is that I wrote sorted by and the iterator, and it sorted all the data in alphabetical order. You could write custom logic here inside if the data, I mean, if your length is less than 8, greater than 8, or any other custom function, you could sort the data accordingly. So if you guys have any more questions, you guys can drop it in the chat. And while you do, I'll drop mine, my few links and all. So you guys can connect with me here. You can reach out to me through my LinkedIn, through my Twitter, and I'm also available in the WhatsApp groups for any doubt and all. So that's all from my side, guys. I'll hand it over to Shomalod again. Thank you.
Guys, before me starting, I would ask Shantini to continue.
Yes, thank you,
That's
Shubhayu, for this wonderful session. They were very calm, and they surprising that they do not have any queries. So I think they understood really well. And before I hand it over to Shomalu to continue with the session, I would like to thank Lift India for sponsoring this event. And Lift India is our gold partner. So Lift India will be with us for next 4 months, sponsoring all our events. So here, a huge shout out for Lift India. And Shomalu, you can continue now. And I think they're having a wonderful time out here.
okay. Thanks, Shantini. So, okay, let's start. Guys, is my screen visible? Can someone just confirm me that? Or through audio?
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So, guys, today we are going to learn how to build scrollable lists. As you are using like the social medias, Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok, anything. The main UI interaction is scrolling. You guys keep scrolling on and on and on. So scrolling is a very important part of app which you want to ship. So let me just turn on my app and let's see what we are going to build today. So this is the app, affirmations app. I hope this is visible. So we are going to understand how this app is going to help us to get going with scrolling. So let me first say this is a data class. As Shubhayu Bhaiya told you, there is something called data class. Data class does not hold any functions. It only holds the properties of a class. And these properties are initialized in the constructor itself. Like here you see, this is a data class. The class name is affirmation. And it has few properties. The property name is string res and images. The violet colors are the property names. And string res basically means this has to be a string resource. And image res means this has to be the image resource. I hope you have gone through the second module, so you will know what I am talking about. So let me just continue. I will provide you all the code of it, so do not have to worry. And this is the data set that I am preparing. This is the data source, this is the class, and it has a function. This is a normal class. This is not a data class. This is a normal class whose name is data source, and it has a function called load affirmations. This load affirmation is actually a list of affirmation class type. The affirmation is this affirmation class, this data class. And here I am making a list of this affirmation class, affirmation objects. Each one of this is a separate instance of the affirmation class. And it passes the different types of constructed data. So let me just go and show you around that. This is the main entry point, as you know, and this is the first composable, where I am calling the affirmation list composable. Let's just continue to affirmation list. This is the affirmation list composable, which now makes a column composable out of affirmation list, affirmation cards. This Shubha also told you the for each function, right? This for each function actually iterates through all the data in this data source.kt, and for every instance of it renders a card. This data source is being loaded from here. As you see, I am calling the data source class previously displayed, and in the data source class I am calling the load affirmations function. This function is being called here, and it loads all the data of the list. So let's continue here. This is the affirmation card. It contains an image and a text. Normal like that. This card composable may be something new to you, but this actually makes this whole thing separate. If I keep this just row and column, it will be indistinguishable from them. So for just the UI UX purpose, I made it a card composable. So as you see, there are a lot of affirmations. So I may have like many of them here, but it is not scrollable. I cannot scroll this thing. So here comes the lazy composable part, lazy column. I will show you how this is working. First, let me tell you what is the drawback if I keep continuing with column. Everyone will have, this is called a layout inspector in the right side bottom portion. This is basically the equivalent of website's layout inspector, which is in the every browser. Let me start this. There are main two drawbacks of a column composable. At first, it is not scrollable. If the column composable's length goes beyond your screen height, it is not scrollable. So this is the first problem. Your other content is not visible, and another content, as you will see now. So this is, I am opening the affirmations app, and this is the column composable. As you see that all the affirmation card instances are rendered at once. All these affirmation cards composables are rendered at once, but other affirmation cards are not visible, but they are rendered in the background. If I have a large amount of data or large amount of object that is coming, so it may just freeze my app for some time, and it may make performance bottleneck. So how to overcome this? How to overcome this all the data rendering at same time and bringing the scrollability? So let me just change this column to this lazy column, and I will show you what lazy column does. There may be something wrong here. Now it is okay. Let me rerun the app with lazy column. Just wait a bit. The Gradle build is running. Just give it a second. Okay. Here you see that this starts keep scrolling. The scrolling starts. The normal scrolling part starts with lazy column. And the another thing with lazy column is, let me again start the layout inspector. It's a bit slow. Just give it. Oh, it has came up. Again, let's see what lazy column does to your UI. The UI is in the front end. The UI is all same. You will not see any difference, but the scrolling is on right now. Let's see what lazy column does in background. You see, lazy column just renders what is being shown in the screen. The other columns, other things are not rendered. Other affirmation cards are not rendered at all. As they become visible, you will see at some time the affirmation app re-rendering. As I keep scrolling, the new instances of it keep spawning here. This makes things a bit dynamic. Here you see the affirmation app again re-rendered. If I open it again, I will see the number of affirmation cards have increased. As I keep scrolling here, the cards will again re-render. This helps in two things. When you see a normal real life app, it basically two parts, a backend and a front end. When you open an app for the first time, the data comes from the database backend and the end user is shown in the front end. So when we are in the front end, we don't really have any control on how much data is coming from the backend.
I think it's a power cord or a internet issue.
Hold on for a moment, guys. In meanwhile, you can practice the codes that Shubhayu has provided, and also you can ask your queries in the comment section. Okay, Shomalo is back.
Yeah, guys, am I audible right now?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. Sorry, the Wi-Fi just got disrupted a bit. My screen is again visible, right?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. What I was saying was like, our production app really has some backend and the front end. When the data is coming from the backend, we don't, with the front end guys, we don't really know how much data is going to come. So how do we tackle it? We tackle it by building something like the lazy column, which lazily renders data in a dynamic way. Let me take an example of Instagram or Instagram Reels. When you keep scrolling and scrolling the Instagram Reels, the front-end developer of the Instagram Reel does not know how many reels you are going to watch. So what he makes is he makes something like lazy column, where as you keep scrolling, in the background, more and more reels keeps coming, and as you keep scrolling, you don't really feel the background. In background, something is loading because you are playing the video, but in background, new videos keep coming. So this is how it is being tackled, and scrollability is also important right here. So did you understand what I was telling? Let me just go to that. Sorry. Did you understand? Oh, affirmations is just something I made up. Affirmations is basically some quotes and pictures. I made it a quite a long list of 10 items, which will definitely not fit in the screen with. That's what affirmations are. Yeah, infinite scroll is the right thing. You can make infinite scroll with using this composable. Do you have any other questions here for me? Did you understand what I was telling? Just tell me yes or no. Okay, one yes. Others? Okay. Which part I should tell once more? Devanjan, can you please specify which part I should tell once more? Okay, the whole lazy column part. Okay, got it. Let me just stop everything. Lazy column base is basically like us. We are lazy people. We do only what things are needed and we do not do anything other than that. So lazy column basically renders only what is being shown in this part. Okay. I think I cannot share this thing. Just give us a second. My screen is visible still, right? Yeah. Just confirm me once through audio. My screen is visible or not.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So this is my normal phone and this has a fixed screen width. What column does is if something overflows the screen width, the other things are rendered in the background, but we cannot see it. Column is just fixed. We cannot scroll, we cannot do anything. But still the contents will be rendered in the background. So this results in what you say. It is wastage of resource. Your RAM is utilized, your memory is utilized, but your user cannot see. So what is the point of that? So these shortcomings are being mitigated by lazy column. What lazy column does is it only renders what it is being shown in this screen height. Others is not rendered. As you scroll on, things will be rendered. Let me start again. Okay. App has come online. I'm starting the layout inspector. Column and lazy column does not make anything in the foreground. Column and lazy columns gives you the same result, but lazy column adds scrollability and dynamic rendering. So I have not scrolled the app. Let me open and see how many things lazy column renders. Lazy column just renders three things, three cards. You see three cards are there. Lazy column just renders three cards, not more than that. As I keep scrolling, the fourth card becomes visible. You see again this affirmation card closes. This means one re-rendering has been made. And here you see, now you count, there are few more cards. So lazy column just re-rendered new cards which were previously not visible. But right now, as it has came in this viewport, it is now being re-rendered like this. As I keep scrolling, lazy column will keep re-rendering things. Now, did you understand? Any other problem? Guys, see, if you have any problem in the code of GitHub or any other things, you may just contact us. We will be really happy to help you. Okay. Okay, now I will transfer it to Swarup. He will be just teaching you the most meaty part, how to design the great UIs. As you see, he's a very talented person, building all these awesome PPTs. So let's have a round of applause for them. Let's have a shout out for Swarup.
Let me
until it
first
comes up.
finish, I guess.
I have finished.
No, no, like let me finish. Then like,
Oh,
it's fine.
I'll be stopping and Swarup will be starting.
Let me share my screen. Let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, yes, screen is visible.
So, hey guys, I'm Shauruk, a UI designer, and here the graphics lead at GDSC Technoman Salt Lake. So today I'll be taking this very short session on the UI design using material design language, that is a in-house production of Google in the year 2014. Not going into much history. Let me just get things cleared up. I know many of you have heard the term UI a lot of times, but still I want to like redefine it one more time. Like user interface or UI is basically the visual part of the application that you are seeing and interacting with. You as a user are seeing and interacting with. So what material design does different from other designs like Apple's Swift or Microsoft's own designing language is that material design is like very much different from all of those things in many ways. So what the name materials suggest is basically material design as a design language is hugely and heavily influenced by real life solid objects. So as you know, in like in real life, all the solid matter or the solid objects, they can be attached to one another, they can be stacked upon one another, and they behave while interacting with one another depending on their size, their weight, their shape, and various other factors. The same occurs in material design. So to refer to all those stuff, let me just show you a very small video at first.
Swarup, the PPT audio is not coming for some reason.
It's okay. I like. There's no way actually to share the audio in this interface. So just like I want to just emphasize on the facts that you can see like these are real life renders, like how they are influenced by real life objects and their physical properties. And here is the official font that Google uses in most of its UI. So the thing is that although the material design as a whole is basically a design language for UI UX, all the UI UX parts that you are dealing with in your everyday applications and everyday life are totally into the 2D mobile screen that you are using. But the main difference over here is that material design works totally in 3D space with its own X, Y, and Z axes. I will show you a very like small example right now after this video ends to show how relatable material design makes applications with the real life scenario. So there the video ends. Let me just move to the next slide. So that's the foundation. Material design defines the qualities that can be expressed by UI regions, surfaces, and components. So it's very interesting if you think it that way, because I like in a 1 day workshop, it's not like enough to teach the whole of UI UX as a concept. I can just help you develop the sense of designing UI UX so that you can implement the beautiful fundamentals of material design into your application that you are going to build with your team soon. So here you can take it as an example. Like let's consider this is the button, and when you are interacting with the button, it forms a shape like this. It elevates, but this is just the blueprint. What material design does is totally different. Material design will make it appear 3D in the 3D space, like it would have been interacted in real life. So that's material design for you. And before we hop into layout, let me first say, like, whenever we like arrange many things in our room, we first imagine that this thing should go here and this thing should go here. Then if I bring someday some other like other a chair or a table here, I would have space for that as well. So that is basically planning a layout for your website, because you don't know for your website or for your application when you are going to add a new feature, when you are going to add a new tab or a new banner. So there's layout for you. uh, as for the principles of material design layout, the first thing is predictability, the second is consistency, and the third one is responsiveness. Now, what is predictable design? Predictable design is, as the name suggests, it's basically that you always have to use intuitive and predictable layouts, and that also consistently throughout the whole of interface. Let's be honest. As a developer of the application or the designer of the application, as you suggest, you are not into some kind of competition with your user to proclaim your aesthetic superiority. You have to make your UI as simple as possible for the user to understand and quite predictable by the user. This basically makes the application easier for the user to use and learn, and also develops his connection with it. And if he will, you as a user, or he as a user, or she as a user, will find the application totally like familiar to what he has like predicted basically. The next one is consistency. So it is very simple to like create responsive design. You have to have consistency throughout the application so that no part feels odd one. Like all the places with all the margins and and gutter spaces and typefaces and type styles and type sizes, everything you have to keep a consistency throughout the UI. And the last one is responsiveness. Well, responsiveness is when whichever orientation you hold your device or whichever size of screen you are using, your layout must be totally responsive so that it can resize itself with that without any hassle and totally like beautiful. So that's layout for you. This is basically the layout anatomy, like very much definitive. So I don't want to get into these things and bore you guys. So first, let's imagine this basic layout of a web application. This is the grid in front of you. It has a top part and some bottom regions. The top part that you are seeing, it is called the app bar. It consists of the logo and the other applicational parts like the about us section, the home, then the hamburger menu, then maybe much more options, the search bar and all. This part is called the navigational bar. The search bar and the application and the like about section, sometimes these components switch from app bar to navigation bar depending on your preference on the applicational side. Like for the application that you are developing, it's your choice. But generally navigation bar consists of all the features. Like in case, if I give you an example, if you open up Gmail, you'll see that to the right hand side there will be other Google applications like Google To Do's, then like Google Docs, then Google many other applications. So that is basically the navigational part. And this is the body. So that's really simple. I'll go into the next part, that is responsive layout grid. So layout grid is nothing but building, but helping in building the responsive layout that just now we, okay, I actually forgot that my camera is off. I'm sorry. Let me just turn it on. Yeah, I guess I'm visible. Yeah, I'm visible, right? Please confirm.
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. So this is like, suppose this is a very basic application with the like the top part that you are seeing with a triangle, a sphere and a square. It is basically the uh, like the status bar of your mobile phone that will change depending on the device you use. So that's given. And the remaining portion is basically your application or interface. We can divide it into these few parts. The green parts that you are seeing on both the sides, they are called the margins. I'll go into details later. The red part are called the red or pink part are called the columns, and the between parts, they are called the gutters. So let's first come into columns. So columns are basically vertical spaces that we allot in an application. This basically contains many containers and like many uh, tabs and many other buttons and all. These are basically aligned with the columns. It may consist of two columns or three columns or even one column. If you were assigning it to a small icon, it may only take one column. That is column for you. The next part is gutter. Gutter is basically the spacing between separate components. That is, if you are placing two icons side by side, there is a gutter margin between them. And the last one is margins. Margins are a very interesting thing. Well, margins help a lot in responsive design because we don't know what type of device our user is going to use. It may be a tablet, it may be a desktop, it may be a mobile phone. Uh, it may be a mobile phone held in a landscape position or a portrait position. So whenever the aspect ratio goes to the wider scene, that is like a desktop, the margins tend to widen up, and in case of portrait ones or squarer ones, the margin tends to shrink. So that's layout for you. Before entering colors, I haven't actually added those slides here because due to the shortage of time, I'm sorry. That is a navigational part. Let me just emphasis on navigation a bit. Like many a times I have seen in applications, there are like, suppose you are using a e-commerce application or e-commerce website like Flipkart. Now, when you open up the application, you have the search bar. You go into that and search for something over there. You get a list of items. Now you have two options. Either you set a filter to filter some those items of some specific brand, or you just select any one item from the list of the items. Now, whenever you are selecting one item from the list of the items, you are seeing it and you think that no, I'll check some other items and then come back to it. So when you press back, I have seen an application that back button takes you directly to the home page of the application. This must not happen. This is basically a bad UI design. Now, like, just imagine the user will have to again search for the item, again apply for the filter, and then again search for the next item. That's very much like not user friendly. So the real way to do it is basically go whenever he presses on the back button, it must take him to right the back to right to the back, last page that he was in. So that's basically reverse navigation, the reverse navigation check that we always do in UI UX designing. Basically, because whenever we are designing, we have to first study our application, study our user base, like what application we are designing, what is the motive of this application. It may consist of forward navigation or directive navigation, or it may consist of lateral navigation. Now, what is lateral navigation? It is basically think of it as a inheritance, like in oops, right? Like in oops you have multiple inheritance, sorry, hierarchical inheritance, in which you have parent class and their child classes below them. So how you differentiate parent classes and child classes? By their priorities or by their like superiority over the other. So in case of forward navigation, we take this hierarchical structure in mind. Like for example, if I give you an example of the very e-commerce store I gave right now, there the application was showing a list of items. That was one part of the UI. Then whenever you are going into an application, an item, that is another part of the UI. So each of them has their hierarchical importance to them. That is totally separate. But if you consider the application like Keep Notes, Google's Keep Notes, or any other Samsung Notes, you will see that whenever you open the application, you get to see like many tabs in front of you showing a glimpse of the notes that you have taken there. Whenever you press on one of the notes, it expands and show you the other notes. So here, all the notes have the same hierarchical value. So whenever you are pressing back from one expanded note, it will always take you to the home. But the same shouldn't happen in case of forward navigation. So now let's come to colors. Like I'll do it first. Colors is basically like the theming part of your application. It heavily influences like how the user is liking to use your application. It is a like vast field, to be honest. So this is basically the color and theming. Color and themes are designed to be harmonious. It should ensure accessible text and distinguish UI elements and surfaces from one another. So you actually saw one implementation of color theming on my button example, where I showed you that button like in 3D space it rises up and helps you distinguish its elevated form from the like pressed form. So that is basically one example of differentiating in color. We have other examples like, first let's get into the principles real quick. So color basically listen, the color that you choose for your application, this must always reflect your brand style or whatever application you are building. For example, if you are taking in consideration a newspaper application or like a application like Kindle, you'll see most of the UI is in black and white, because in real life, like I said, material design is very much influenced from real life. In real life, the books we use are generally black and white. So whenever a person is translating from a book, a real life book, to a mobile device, the transformation must be very much smooth and smaller of a jump. So you have to make your UI as familiar as the real world equivalent of that. So that is basically in case of a newspaper application. Now, if you take in consideration of some other application like Spotify, for example, or any other musical application, you have the choices, like you can keep the color or change the color depending on the mood, depending on the music that you are playing on the musical application, or depending on the brand. Like in case of Spotify, we have black and green, so that's their brand color. So the even like color has been taken into like huge seriousness with the introduction of material design 3. Today, all through the presentation, that I will be teaching you about material design 2, that is basically the last generation material design. But with the advent of Android 12, material design 3 is a standard. Like, it is amazing. If you, I guess, I think many of you know, and you may have seen the material design 3's implementation in our poster for this Compose Day, unit 3. So in material design 3, what they do is they make the connection between user and the application more enhanced. Like, whatever wallpaper you apply on your mobile device, the OS will detect a color palette taken from that wallpaper and will theme the entire mobile interface according to that. And these applications which are built using Material Design 3 will extract that very color palette from the OS and implement that in themselves, so that the whole experience of the user throughout the mobile device stays streamlined and consistent all through. So these are the like few principles. The first one is expressiveness. So expressiveness is basically, as I said about the Spotify example, it is basically representation of your brand colors, that is representation of your brand style. The next one is legibility. Like, legibility is many a times we see, you'll see, very soon what I mean by legibility with adaptive theming, that I will be showing soon. Legibility is basically, many a times we see like a whole application is designed using light backgrounds and black text, but suddenly something of a darker color appears in the application, and there the text appears to be less legible. So that is legibility. You have to make sure that whatever colors you use in your application, they must have all the iconography and all the text legible to like the user. And the last point is hierarchical, as I said about the navigational part. And also, like, hierarchical color differences basically helps you distinguish between different UI elements in the user interface. So here is a small video how you can distinguish UI elements. About, I was saying about the hierarchical color differences. You see, that's the primary color of your application. That's secondary color that you are putting over the status bar. You can do it in a different way using dark and light tones of your brand colors. Like you can see over here, this is the primary color, this is the status bar color, and you have a secondary tone over here that gives it a greater boost. This is adaptive theming that I was speaking about. You have to make sure that your application's theming engine is such that the font will keep on changing its color depending on the background, like you saw in this video. So, okay, play it one more time. Anyways, so this is alternative color. We are approaching really fast. Am I going too fast? Can anyone say? Let me check. It's okay, right? Thanks. So this is alternative colors. It is like its maximum usage is in basically dark and light theming, and also in Material Design 3, when like the application keeps on changing its color with the wallpaper that a user has set. And alternative colors are basically like alternatives of the brand colors. The brand colors are generally the primary and secondary colors that the brand has set, and you can have alternative colors to them depending on the theme that the user wants to use, or maybe a certain region of the applications that's showing it. Like you may have history kind of an application, and there like it gives you historical news, and so I just made it up in my mind. And there you have a colorful UI, but in a certain part that is like very old or contains many manuscripts and contains most pictures in black and white, you can keep a secondary color theming from for that region only, where the application will totally turn black and white. So that is like it basically increases the interaction and like makes the application more interactive and more lively. So, and the next part is everyone's favorite. Like it had a very great fan base like a couple of years back. That's dark theme. Okay, so dark theme in the building. Everyone was like putting on dark theme on their mobile phones. Dark theme is basically when your application emits less amount of luminance in your from your device's screen, depending on whatever theme you choose or depending on adaptive lighting. Basically, it helps in reducing power consumption in OLED displays. That's a huge point, and it also helps like in legibility of text in certain regions. And other parts are basically like many people find it very cool to use dark theme. So that's a given thing, but there is one catch over here. Like dark theme, in many places, like you can see over here, the contrast ratio between the white text and the background black is quite high. But if I do the same thing in this manner, like you see there's a change in the color of the text, you are seeing the same importance, the same hierarchical importance all through the text, but the color difference is shifted. The contrast ratio dipped down. It is still visible to your eye, but it is much more subtle and much more comfortable to see, basically. Now, the final part, let's talk about typography. So, typography, let me be honest, like I have, like don't use too much cursive fonts in your applications. I have seen many people using like Comic Sans in their mobile's interface. I don't know why. Anyways, so no offense to them, by the way. The typography part is very interesting. It is basically, if you have done HTML, you already know all this stuff. Like the headings are basically the parts that seek most importance, like the most important text, like the heading of a page. That is the headlines, basically. I'm sorry, I said heading two times. Then the like the name of an object or like name of a page itself. Those things are basically done using headlines. You can use the display style and handwritten styles and script styles in case of headlines. Like here you are using a script style. But in case of other regions, like where the text is very small, don't use such type of display fonts and cursive and handwritten fonts, because they tend to be less legible when the size decreases a lot. uh, it will be better to use sans serif over there, and also throughout your UI just you can use those type of fancy fonts in the headline parts only. So this is basically Roboto, the very glimpse that you got on that video, and it's amazing to see how the like this variable font works. You have full customization all through the font. You will see very soon. So keep watching. This is basically customizing the font as per your need. Like whichever type of application you're building, it will vary accordingly. So it's just showing you how you can like make it work any way you want, depending on the device you are opting for, the application you are making. It may be a kids app, it may be a serious application, it may be office application, it may be anything. So you see the styles there. So that's Google Fonts. I hope many of you know about it already. You can get all your font requirements, and also they have launched their material icons implementation into Google Fonts only. So you will be getting all your iconography from there as well in SVG and PNG, whichever format you need. So that's basically the end of this session. Thank you. I hope you liked it.
Thank you so much, Swaroop. That was a wonderful presentation. Won't you agree, guys? Yes, absolutely. So, as we have come to the end of today's session, so if you have any doubts, you can keep asking in the chat section, or else we'll wrap it up and call it a day. All right, so I'm ending the session. I hope you guys have a great app making session ahead, and bye, guys.